everyone. Welcome to the show. Weekly podcast from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. We call it Tennessee Wildcast.
Tennessee
Wildcast. I'm Doug Markham, Jason Harmon. We'll introduce our guest in just a minute. Special guest. He's from outside the agency.
Yeah, we're having a lot of special guests here.
A lot of special guests. Now, we're looking forward to it,
show.
too. And his parents are my neighbors. So we'll talk about that.
So you watched him grow up?
No, I didn't watch him grow up. He was already grown up by the time I came around.
Yeah, I was already past that stage.
Or they weren't there yet, maybe.
Right.
Anyway. All right, but we got some stuff to tell you first. Turkey season
it's
here. Ready to go.
Yeah, the youth just had a great weekend, and now it's time for the regular season, and we'll throw the dates up there on the screen, and if you can
hard
see
to believe.
That, some of it's
hard
cut
to
off,
believe.
but anyway, April 1st through May 14th.
You can see that. 4 birds, 4 birds, no more than one a day. Okay.
Yep.
And when you're shooting at those birds, you can't have shot that's any smaller. I mean, any larger than number 4.
Right.
So be careful with that, and be safe when you go out there. There's a reason for that.
And if you're going on the Governor's one-shot hunt this weekend, have a good time. That event's going on this weekend too.
Yeah, we got a good interview coming up in a few weeks with Julie Schuster, who's the executive director of that organization, the Wildlife Foundation. It's very important to sportsmen, and great interview with Julie. She's always a good interview, and we've already put that one together, so we'll get it done pretty soon. And fishing, I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say, and last week's show was great too with Michael Neal, so just keep watching. We got a lot of special guests and a lot of different guests coming on. And
yeah, we're still putting things together, and we like talking to our folks here at the agency because we feel like it helps the sportsmen learn what's going on with what we're doing, but we need to bring in these smart people like the person we brought in today.
Yeah. He's got a pretty impressive background. We've been chatting here before the show. So.
He does. Before we get to Jarod, though, fishing also, great time to be fishing right now. We've had a really good bite going on. Not that I've been involved in it, but I have a lot of friends in that area, and they tell me about it. And, of course, we had the cold front come through, and that sort of whacked things up. But it's coming back. Fishing's going to be great.
Yep.
So get out there.
Looking forward to it getting a little warmer and
crappie time,
getting out there more.
stripe time, those big hybrids time on some lakes in Tennessee, and make sure you go check out the fishing guide. Oh, speaking of fishing guide, it is here.
It is here, yes.
We're a little
and
bit
on our
late this year. Yeah, it's on our website, tnwildlife.org. The hard copy will be in stores, should be in there right now.
Yeah, just go to the four anglers tab at tnwildlife.org. That's the easiest place to get it. And you can have it on your phone and take it with you.
It is. Always take it with you. And we want to repeat one more time. This was on our Facebook the other day. Jason and I did a wildcast. If you go out and you bag a bird and you check it in and you don't get maybe you walk out of the store without the paperwork or whatever, if you get the confirmation number, just write it down on a piece of paper for the bird, right?
Just make sure you have that confirmation number in case you get checked and the officer knows that you're legal.
And you put it on your phone. You can write it down.
You can do a screenshot. If you check it in through your app, just screenshot your confirmation number. If you're logged in our system with your email, you will get an email confirmation. Somebody was asking that on Facebook the other day, but you still get that email confirmation. But if you don't, you check it in at a check-in station. Just record that confirmation number. Make sure you write it down if they don't print you one out.
That's all you have to do. Officer comes up and asks if you checked in your bird, and of course you're good hunters, right? So you probably have, and just tell them the confirmation number you're taking care of. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, let's introduce Jarod.
Go ahead.
All right, this is Jarod Woodard. About time.
No, that was all good.
Jarod is you don't get a hat, Jarod, either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just lost my daggone hat. Dang it.
You do get a hat. You and Kevin. I'm still pondering over Kevin. Anyway, Jarod Woodard is a sportsman and also has had some great shows that you got to go online to see in recent years. Outdoor shows. He got one that we're going to talk about in a few minutes that he and Kevin Weaver are doing.
Yeah.
Kevin was going to be here today, but had some flight issues or something.
Yeah,
we'll get him
had
back in here.
He had a plane get delayed coming out of Carolina. So
we'll get him. And it's a musician's life, right?
It is.
Kevin is a drummer that goes everywhere.
Yep. He was here for one day, and so I told him, even though he was going to get in barely in time to do the podcast, to go to the house and save his marriage rather than come do the podcast. No offense.
Well, Kevin, we will get him in here. We'll get you both back in here. I had y'all on my radio show several times a few years. Y'all great interviews.
It was a lot of fun.
Fun to talk to. And what you've done in recent years is you've had a venture called Double Trouble where you shot video, and now you've got Nashville Hunt. And
Hunt Nashville.
Hunt Nashville.
Yeah,
I said that a minute ago.
Right.
Sorry.
All right.
I guess Google probably doesn't really care.
Hunt Nashville. Yeah, but I do. Hunt Nashville. And we're going to talk about that today. It's a podcast that you're doing too. But Kevin and Jarod are also avid sportsmen. They love to hunt and love to fish. And I want to give some folks your thoughts on turkey before we're done today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about that for the rest of the day.
Yeah, easy enough. Your parents live right behind me. That's
Yes.
kind of how we got to know each other.
I think
sorta.
that's how we met initially.
Yeah, initially, and anyway, it's just we running around in the same world. You also happen to know Bobby Wilson's, who our assistant chief of
Don't hold it
assistant
against me.
director.
Assistant director. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
It's a small world in Nashville.
It
It is,
It's a
and-
very small, big town.
And I told both of these, I'm the only one that's not a musician because both of these guys are
You're the
good
luckiest
musicians.
one in the room.
Maybe.
You can play the spoons or the tambourine.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't even know if I do that or not. Anyway, Jared, tell us a little bit about Hunt Nashville.
Yeah. So we, Kevin and I met about 17 years ago now. I was just a wee teenager and started hunting together for years and years and years, picked up a camera several years in just because one of us was inevitably not the shooter on turkey hunts and deer hunts. And so started filming stuff for a long time and did a lot of stuff with Double Trouble, uploading stuff to YouTube, did a television show called Friends in Wild Places, did a few episodes with them. Great experience, a whole different world than what we were used to. And so we just, the last couple of years, we've been having kids and getting busy with life. Kevin's been traveling a lot. And so we kind of got together about 6 months ago and we're like, what if we sat down and did a podcast? I started listening to podcasts maybe 3 years ago or so. And that's pretty much, I don't listen to the radio anymore. That's all I listen to.
Podcasts are pretty cool.
Yeah.
They just get more and more people coming
That's
over to
right.
it to listen to it.
And that's my entertainment anymore. So in the truck, it hooks up, Bluetooth hooks up, and a podcast is almost always automatically playing. And so so we started Hunt Nashville, which is our two favorite subjects, which is music and hunting. And so we could talk a long time about both of them. And we have a lot of friends who do both of them that are, songwriters and artists and musicians, but also guys that just, they're just guys that hunt and fish on the weekend when they can talk their wives into going.
And also, I want to mention that Jared's also a good builder. He's got a lot of hats that he wears. And,
Yes.
and always
Many
building
hats.
stuff too. So in between that and the family,
That's right.
You
That's
have a
my
busy
day
lifestyle.
job. Yeah, it's the one that I don't talk about a lot, but it's the one I spend the most time doing. It seems to be that's the way it goes.
yeah. Well, when you're away from it, you don't want to keep on doing
That's
it,
right.
I guess. Anyway, well, so your show, who are some folks that you've had on there? What are some of the topics you've talked about? And we'll get to where they can find it.
We've talked to, let's see, last week was, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, was Carrie Barlow, who's a friend of ours, who wrote some songs for Lady Antebellum, Dustin Lynch, trying to think of who else. I think he had maybe some John Party stuff, Billy Currington, but he's also just a big-time hunter and fisherman. He grew up in Carolina, and so we've talked to him a lot. I mean, we went for over an hour.
There's Kevin, yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
We went for over an hour just talking about, music and the music industry and stuff that we've all experienced and songwriting, and then about, half of that time was just talking literally about turkey hunting and what we're looking forward to, past hunts and that kind of thing.
When you're talking music, what do you talk about? Do you talk about how you do it, what your instruments are, your history?
We
What is
usually,
it?
with a songwriter or a musician, we start off with how they got started, kind of their backstory in music. How they started playing or singing or, producing or writing songs. And then we'll get into some of their accolades, but that's not really what it's about. I mean, you can just search any of their names and figure out all the cool stuff they've done. We have a lot of super talented, very talented friends. And then we talk about the music business in general. There's a lot of guys, especially here in town, that do both, that we found have a lot of interest in both. And then there's a lot of people who don't do both, but maybe just hunt, that like to see a behind-the-scenes look of how their favorite song was made, and what the day-to-day life of those kind of guys are.
When you're interviewing a musician, though, or somebody that's in the day-to-day, do you find that they would rather talk about the hunting and fishing than about the business?
It's always, let's get through the music to talk about the hunting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
I
we
kind
put
of
the music
experienced
first.
that with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hunting's not the most. I mean, the music's not the most important thing. But I've found that if we go ahead and put that first, we'll get them through it. If we get on hunting, we'll talk an hour about hunting and never hit the music part.
Yeah, and I think for the folks that are listening too, that they know the person's famous for that music, and you want to get past that before you get into their favorite hobby.
And a lot of times you start the conversation and then the topics just build.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's-
start with that one question and then.
And that's the beautiful thing about it as a free form podcast. It's just a conversation. It's a conversation with a microphone in the room. which is really nice because you don't feel like you're having to put on anything. You don't feel like you're having to put on a show or make sure that you're saying this or doing that or that your hair's right. You know, even the guys on film have to make sure their hair's right. You're thinking about is the conversation itself. And I mean, we've had an hour and a half go by, and it's just like, oh wow, that was an hour and a half. Every time I tell somebody, it's like, we'll do about an hour, give or take, or as long as you want to go, or as short as you want to go. They'll be like, oh man, I can't talk about it for an hour, and then an hour hits, and I'm like, well, it's been a little over an hour. It's like, oh my gosh, we barely got started.
Gone, yeah.
They've got a few fishing stories, or hunting stories they can talk about.
Yeah, and it's a lot of guys we've hunted with a lot, so we have some joint stories that we can talk about and be like, remember that time that you busted that bird and you didn't, like make fun of each other a little bit too.
Well, you were a guitar player when you were young. Your sisters were entertainers, and they all live in the Nashville area, I think, don't they?
They all live here. My sisters were had a band called Coldwater Jane, and they were on Mercury Records for a few years. One of my brother-in-laws is a personal trainer who traveled with Billy Currington and Miranda Lambert and the Dixie Chicks for a long time and trained them. My other brother-in-law is a producer, and he produces music. And then,
and what's the big hit he produced?
He did Meghan Trainor's "All About That Bass."
Okay,
he did that whole record.
Not bad.
Yeah, and then he did some stuff with Jason Mraz. He had a couple of Willie Nelson singles, and Stacey Rico had a song called "More to Life" that he wrote and did.
Point is, you are in a good world to have good contacts with all these folks, and so how do you go about finding out whether they hunt or fish?
Well, up to this point, it's been people we've actually went hunting with.
Okay.
It's been guys that either we know that hunt or we've spent a lot of time in the woods with. There's some crossover there. It'll be people that we've played in bands with or we play in bands with, and you get to talking, and you're out on the road for one day. Say that's 24 hours. You're only working for an hour of that, and you're setting up for 30 minutes. So like you have all this time to kill. They're inevitably hunting stories and fishing stories exchange on the bus or on the plane.
So did you know so-and-so likes to hunt and fish too, and so forth and so. Well, I'm sure it's good because I'm familiar with your other work, and you really do. You're a meticulous person with the camera and your editing and all that stuff. So. But the podcast is a cool thing. It's a lot. It is radio to me. It's radio you got to find online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, that's the thing I loved about doing your show. Is even though it was at 5:30 in the morning, is that it always felt like a little bit more freeform. It always felt like we were just talking and having a conversation rather than trying to put on a show, And it ends up being a show, but you're not thinking about that while you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the way it ought to be. With a lot of coffee at 5.
Exactly.
In the morning.
Of coffee.
Lots and lots of coffee. Well, let's tell us a little bit more about your program. Where can they find it, and what you plan on keeping around? Because as we said before the show, it's persistence.
Yeah.
You want people to come. I think people would love to listen to your show. It's just persistence, getting them out there.
It's consistency. And there may be a week where, when we talk to my brother-in-law, Kevin, I mean, he has music stories out the wazoo, but he doesn't hunt. He's from Baltimore, Maryland, and lived in New York and L.A. for years. And so I've got him out. I got him out on one of our dove hunts once to shoot a shotgun. That's the most I've ever gotten him to do. And so there's episodes like that people may not be into, but there's also episodes we talked to a buddy of ours, David Peel, who has nothing to do with music, but he's created some hunting products and sold them to like Night and Hail and licensed them to those kind of guys.
Wow.
So it's a good mix of both of them, and so we're trying to keep that going. We want there to be, you may get an episode and it's just an artist that has nothing to do with hunting, and if you're interested, great. If not, you're not going to hurt my feelings to come back next week.
Are all your podcasts there, or do you take them down after one?
No, they'll all stay up.
So they can check out.
Yeah, they'll all stay up. We've done about 10 so far, and we're planning on going until we can't do it anymore. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really enjoyable. Yeah,
y'all seem to have a knack for it and a desire to do it, especially with as much traveling as Kevin does, and as much work as you do. You just got to find that time.
Yeah, that's the scheduling. We're sitting down with an artist and songwriter next week, and it's been the scheduling's been the hard part. Yeah, that's the hardest part of all of it. The actual sitting down and having a conversation goes quick.
Are you trying to do it each week, or you just?
Yeah, we're trying to do weekly. We went back and forth on trying to do every other week or once a month, but I just haven't been such a fan of online media for so many years. I've seen the ones that really keep my interest are the ones that at least once a week. Some of them are 2 or 3 times a week, but those are like the Joe Rogan show, but he does 2 or 3 a week. But I mean, that's what he does. It's a lot easier when it's what you do, not when you're out swinging a hammer or telling somebody where to pour a footer on a job site or out playing drums.
You got to go make money.
Exactly.
Gotta
So
get that family going.
But we're going to try to stay once a week for as long as we possibly can.
Well, good deal. I'm serious about getting Kevin back in, and we'll just have a good round table on
Absolutely.
hunting. Talk about hunting. And speaking of hunting, turkey season, it's here.
It's the
you
most
ready?
wonderful time of the year.
Yeah.
I could definitely take that saying away from Christmas and put it in spring. April is my favorite month. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I am a turkey hunter through and through.
And a turkey photographer. There you go. That was on Franklin Road the other day in Nashville, right?
Yeah,
Don't tell everybody where the hunting is.
If you can get permission to hunt there, call me, please. I'll just come film you. You'd have to shoot it with a bow, I think, technically.
Probably so where that is.
But no, I am. During the spring, I've got a DSLR I've had for years with a decently long lens on it. That bird was only 30 yards from the truck, and I just throw in my truck and I keep it with me. I don't consider myself a photographer. But there's something about turkeys. Every time I see one strutting on the side of the road, I have to stop and take a picture.
That camera's in your car.
Oh, it rides in my passenger seat in a bag and in a backpack. And if I see a turkey, I will pop a Yui and go turn around and park on the side.
Do you stop for deer or do you stop for?
I will stop for a big buck.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. It's something about turkeys, and everybody kind of has their. Every hunter I've ever met is like, I'm a dove hunter, or I'm a turkey hunter, or I'm a quail hunter, I'm a deer hunter. I've never met one that's like, oh, I love them all equally, or like, I'm a crappie fisherman, I'm a bass fisherman,
That's the way it
I'm a
seems to be these
saltwater
days.
guy.
Yeah.
And I dove hunt. We do a dove hunt every year, and I love the deer hunt. But there's something about turkey season, man. It gets me.
And pardon me if I've lost train there, but did we tell you how to get? Did you tell them how to get to your podcast?
You can go on basically anywhere you listen to podcasts and search Hunt Nashville.
Just Hunt Nashville.
iTunes,
Hunt Nashville.
Google Play. Pretty much anywhere where you normally listen to podcasts, just search Hunt Nashville. You'll find us. We'll be on there.
All right. So turkey hunting, got any big tips for our hunters out there as you get started? What are you seeing as your scout? What's going on?
The last week or two, last 2 weeks, I've really started seeing the birds really start firing up. I've started seeing them strutting on the side of the road.
They all broke up?
They're starting to break up a little bit. There was a group of, actually, if you go, that video over there on the far right, that's a group of toms out on a buddy of ours. That was yesterday. They were out fighting right outside his window.
Can you get it, Jason?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't show it to the people at home.
Yeah.
Look at there.
There you go.
His wife took that and
Too
sent
busy
it to
watching.
us. Yeah. There's 6 long beards with about a 9 or 10 inch beard, and they're just fighting right outside their bedroom window.
It's awesome.
Wow.
And so, and that's Claire Calloway. She's in a band called the Henningsons. I think they're signed to Sony, maybe. That's Jacob's their husband, and we hunt with Jacob a ton. We've killed a bunch of birds out of his place in Thompson Station. But yeah, it's so you're starting. They're kind of setting up the pecking order there. They're starting to do that a lot, and that was just yesterday. So it's starting to see that a whole lot, and then like I said, I'm ready for season. We got a week behind us with youth weekend, and then this coming weekend is opening day. So
I've talked to a lot of hunters about how they start their year out, and whether they start out calling a lot or not calling much, or where do you come down usually? What do you do to get ready for that first day?
I used to call a lot, to a fault. I used to, if they were gobbling, I was calling. I have gotten to the point where I much prefer run and gun turkey hunting. So if I can get up close, if I can get within 75 yards of one roosting, I'll set up on them, absolutely. But if I hear one 400 yards away, I will throw my shotgun over my shoulder and take off running.
Is that right?
And I went turkey hunting once last year. I had a project that a construction project just took away. I was working every Saturday. It was taking a ton of my time. But the year before is the only year I've ever tagged out, and 3 of the 4 birds I killed running and gunning. 3 of them were on public land out the Cheatham WMA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you do that, running and gunning, you go and keep listening to a call and set up. And how do you do it?
You're just trying to figure out where the birds are, locate them, if you can get them to gobble, and then rather than go against nature trying to get them to come to you, you're going to them. So it doesn't work in everything. If he's in the middle of a 100-acre cut cornfield, unless you're willing to fan him, which is a possibility, which is using a turkey fan to walk through the middle of the field to him, which we've done and had some success with. But, in Tennessee, most of it's hardwood ridges and running through creek bottoms, and, you're hiking up and down the hills quite a bit, especially the areas we hunt.
When you call what you're calling running gun, have you found it's just more, is it an adrenaline thing for you, or just it's a successful way of hunting birds? And
I have been more successful with it. One thing I have told people in the past is be prepared to bump a lot of birds. Mm-hmm. So if you hear 10 turkeys doing it this way, you'll probably scare 8 of them and won't even get within shotgun range. But your likelihood of seeing more birds, at least in my experience, goes way up, and that's the biggest thing for me. So I'd rather do that than hunt, sit until 10 o'clock one morning and listen to a bird. Oh, he's coming, and then he shuts up and it's over.
What about, I heard you mention Cheatham Wildlife Management Area. That's in Ashland City in Middle Tennessee. Do you have to get away from the main roads to do that so that you're not bumping people that are there?
Yeah, I've had mixed luck there as far as where I've killed them. I killed one bird 2 years ago about 50 yards off the road. I mean, he was right there. And then I've killed some that were 3/4 of a mile back in the woods. It kind of depends. Earlier in the season, you'll catch them closer to the road because there's not as much pressure. But Cheatham gets hunted a lot. It's 21,700 acres or something like that.
Wow, he's pretty good.
Yeah. I've hunted it a lot. I've walked many of those bottoms, and so further and further you get into season, the further and further back you've got to get because those birds just don't want to come up where they're going to see a truck parked.
Do you run into a lot of people? I mean, do you ever have a problem with that?
I've run into one guy. I've been turkey hunting out there for 10 years, and I've run into one person. Okay. Now, you'll see a truck and need to go to the next spot. So
you keep that in mind, though, as you go out there.
But I've only literally out in the woods, I've run into one. I called one guy up one time. I was sitting, and he came walking up the road, trying to hen calling, poking around the corner, and I just waved my hand, and it was fine.
Yeah, just hide the red handkerchief.
And don't take a gobble tube out there, and don't take a fan out
That's
there.
That's a great tip. Yeah, don't take gobblers to public lands.
No, it's not a good idea. You might think that nobody's around, but if you are on a bird and it's a Saturday morning and it's good weather, somebody else is on that bird too. You can almost guarantee it every time. It's just a matter of who gets there first and who convinces them to come to him.
This might put you on the spot, but I was going to ask you about decoys and things like that. Do you like using decoys, and have you seen those new robotic, controlled?
I was at the NWTF convention this year, and I saw the one that's on like a little 4-wheel drive buggy. I would do that in a heartbeat. I fanned one bird a couple years ago, and I enjoyed it. It was nice. But I run and gun so much that the fanning works for me. I carry a Jake and a hen, those Feather Flex, like Steyr. I don't even know if they're the Feather Flex brand, but those foam decoys that fold up real small and stick in your back, they don't weigh anything. I probably pull them out once every 4 or 5 hunts just because I don't stay set up for long. I mean, if the bird's not close, I'm going after it. And there's a lot of hunters that would definitely look down on that as far as they're like, you need to stay put. And I understand that. Some guys are real successful like that. Just in my personal experience, I found more luck actually getting out and running after them.
I think it's your hunt, just as long as
it is.
Being careful.
And, being careful. And that's the big thing, being safe. Be aware that, again, if you're set up on a bird, chances are somebody else don't go run through somebody's setup and bust it. Things can get competitive on public land if people aren't careful. And keep in mind that those guys are out there the same reason you are. They're probably not going to run through your setup, so don't go run through theirs.
And somebody might bust that RC gobbler.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, be careful what you shoot at now. I guess technology's gotten pretty good.
It might be a remote control gobbler.
Jared, do you are you one that you go out there and your early season's good and it's April the 15th and you've got 3 birds? Are you going to slow down and wait, or are you going to kill that bird and maybe go help somebody else hunt?
Yeah, I'll kill 2 birds and then I'll start helping other people hunt.
Will you?
Unless it's I've got my brother-in-law's never killed a bird. My wife's sister's husband has never killed a bird before, so I think I'm going to try to get him a bird this year. But I'm a little bit selfish too when I'm like, I just want to get 1 or 2 done and under my belt, and then we'll move on. But no, I'll hunt to the end of season as long as somebody wants to go. I'll go.
And how'd you get your mom or your dad get you started in this?
My dad did. When we're from South Mississippi originally, so we used to hunt deer hunt river swamps and run dogs and that kind of thing. So that got the initial itch of hunting. We squirrel hunting and rabbit hunting, and we did some quail hunting on reserves, and that got the initial itch. But really, after we moved to Tennessee, the hunting in Mississippi then was far and few between. I mean, you'd run dogs for 4 or 5 hours in the morning and maybe see 2 deer, maybe. unless you were just in a
Deer?
good spot. Deer, yeah.
Okay, that's different from here then.
Yeah, and so here, I mean, obviously you can't run dogs here,
Right.
but if you could, I mean, Lord have mercy, it'd be herds
be
coming out of
deers
the it'd be
everywhere,
everywhere.
yeah.
You'd be picking and choosing what you wanted to shoot. So Tennessee really, I'm glad we moved to Tennessee when we did. I love my home in Mississippi, and the hunting down there has gotten a lot better since I was a kid. Apparently, there's hogs and stuff down there now, but the deer and turkey hunt has gotten a lot better. But Tennessee, just, I mean, we're super blessed to have all of the wildlife that we got and all the different things that you can hunt. I mean, even to the fishing, being able to go to the Harpeth and go catch smallmouth all day if you want to. There's stuff like that I think most of us take for granted that are in place that, I don't know, if you really stop and think about it and visit other places that don't have the mix. I mean, we've got, I know it's a small amount of hunts, but we've got elk hunting in East Tennessee now. You know what I mean? Like, where can you go and hunt as many things as you can here? There's not many states where you can do that.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of folks that have worked hard to make it that way
Oh,
for many, many years, and I appreciate that you're saying that. And you live close to Bobby Wilson. You could learn a lot about the fishing stuff with Bobby.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
He's had a lot of hand in working on fish projects through all the years. So, so anyway, what about later part of the season for you, Jarod? Do you continue the same style through the year, or do you do something different?
I'm pretty aggressive. I don't know. I'm pretty aggressive all the way through.
Are you?
I think just running and gunning and, belly crawling through ditches kind of lends itself to that. I'm a little more standoffish early season just because, Cheatham is one thing, or large wildlife management areas, but when you're hunting a 50-acre private tract, you have to be aware that there's only a certain amount of birds there, and if you go running after them in the first weekend and spook them, it's going to be really hard to kill them if you don't get them then. So on private land, I hunt a little bit differently, but that's the beautiful thing about the wildlife management areas is you just go, and you don't have to worry about hitting a property line. You don't have to worry about running into somebody. You just walk until you're exhausted. I'll walk 5 or 6 miles in the morning hunting for 4 hours, and it not even be a big deal,
Is that why you're getting up early and working out right now?
That is the exact reason. I started working out.
I've talked to people like you before.
I started working out in the beginning of January.
Yeah.
I go 3 times a week, and I run 5 miles each day. And the sole reason I started working out is because turkey season starts April 1st. That's the only reason I started. It wasn't to look good in a bathing suit. It was, losing weight is a good, I needed to lose some weight. I had some baby fat, but I went, because last year I chased a couple birds and I literally got winded. And I was like, that's not happening this year.
Getting ready to go. You making
right.
Kevin go work out too?
No, Lord, no. I'm doing it for him. I'm going to have to carry, he'll be at the truck taking a nap and I'll be carrying a bird over my shoulder on the way back is what'll happen.
See, Kevin, this is what happens when you don't show up.
Exactly. You can't defend yourself. I can just get on you all the time.
And Kevin, by the way, Kevin Weaver is his name, and he is. You say he's an avid deer hunter.
Yeah, he's. He turkey hunts a lot. He loves it too, but I think he considers himself more of a deer hunter. He's got more. He's shot more big bucks than I've seen, and I don't know. He's got a knack for it. I kind of rely on him to put me on deer, and he kind of relies on me to put him on turkey. So it's a good partnership.
That's very
Does he
good.
hunt a lot of public land?
He started. I don't know, down in. He just moved down to Triune, to College Grove area, and there's a WMA somewhere down there. I don't know which one, and he hunted it. He killed 2 deer out there this year with a bow. I think he killed a little buck and a doe out there, and he had never really hunted public land before that, other than turkey hunting the WMA with me.
Yeah, we do have a small WMA over in that way that I guess it's open to archery hunting.
It might be. I don't know. It's somewhere it's somewhere south of Nashville. I don't know if it's close to his house or not.
Okay, yeah.
He hadn't even told me. He's keeping it to himself.
Yeah, well,
like
that's a
it's
good
not
idea.
like it's not on the TWA website. He's keeping it to himself. He won't even tell me where it is.
We have good maps on the
Very
site.
good maps that I have printed off many of.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that your season's coming up. It's your favorite time of year, and you need to ask your dad if you can take. I don't know how y'all work it out, but if you got to ask your dad, ask him for a lot of time off come April.
Well, I'll probably try and do that.
Maybe you just tell him. I don't know.
I wish I could. I wish I could, but no, we'll be hitting it hard.
All right, one more time. It's called Hunt Nashville.
Hunt Nashville.
And you can find it by doing a search.
Yep,
And
podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, or just Google search Hunt Nashville. We should come up pretty high up, I think. Or Hunt Nashville podcast, I'll say.
All right, well, we appreciate your time coming on here.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening to our show. And
Absolutely.
we really
I'm a
appreciate
big
that
fan.
that you do.
Hey, it's been a good one. Thanks for being here. And,
Yeah, man.
We'll be following and favoriting your show and then your stuff on
Instagram.
Instagram. You got a lot of stuff on Instagram, so
And we'll get Kevin in here and let y'all talk all about music.
There you go.
And I'll listen. Okay?
We can absolutely do that.
but thanks for being with us, and always keep coming back. TNWildlife.org, best place to start to find us. So
Watch all those shows that are always out there.